Good morning, good morning. Predicted trades, family. Why is it not showing my screen now? Sorry for the black screen. Give me a second. I broke something. No. Why is it just giving me a black screen? Ah, there we go. Okay. That is so strange. Sorry about that. Hopefully you guys can see my screen now. Yep, looks like it's coming through. So, hope everyone's doing well this morning. Just for a quick review of yesterday, it was very boring and very lame and very simple. We tried to hold up a little bit in the morning, then dumped to the daily 8, tried to bounce off of it a couple of times, kept coming back to it. You know, it set up a decent short, a little long, another decent short. Then it just started getting kind of fizzly where, you know, each little long and short got smaller and smaller on their returns. But ultimately, we held that daily 8, stayed above, closed above. And as a kind of overall review, we've been on a very nice bull run. We got above our moving averages, we pushed higher, we made it up to a lot of key levels. Ultimate key level that we made it back to is that 41.36.5. We got above it some. We are a little bit below it now. It was POC at the start of yesterday. POC did step back down to that 41.20. So that can happen. We aren't even halfway through the month. We kind of have two key levels that keep establishing themselves as POC, that 41.36.5, that 41.20. And now that daily 8 has caught up a little bit above 41.20. I do want to go down to a lower time frame just to take a quick look at yesterday and talk about a point I try to make, you know, a few times a week. Every day we should be trying to look for, you know, 1 to 3 good moves, right? We look at the Monday, we had 1 good move up. Then you start fading it back for the second good move with the first target of VWAP, key level, and if that can give out, a drop to another key level. So 1 good move, 2 good moves, and then you could say another good move down, because this pop was very riddled with whipsaw, and then when we hit something, we went down for new lows. So only a couple of good moves. And when you look at yesterday, you know, I'd say the first initial rejection of VWAP, first good trade. I played some of the longs back to VWAP. They were, I don't even think there were any good doubles in that playback, and as you can see, it got going, had to come back, then got going again, but couldn't get through VWAP. So 1 good short, then 2 good shorts, then a really nice bounce back where you did see some doubles, right? And then you faded back down again. So I'd say 1 good short, 2 good short, you know, maybe a good pop. But this short was very long, choppy, slow. They didn't really pump the premium because it took a while. Point being, you know, sometimes we just need to get our piece on a couple of good moves and then just get out. You know, we can still watch price action, but we need to understand when we were just stuck in basically an 8-point range from, you know, about noon on. 41.28. I can call it a 10-point range. Down and up and down and up. It's basically pinned between that, what POC was, what POC is, and our daily 8, that's support. So, just a little reminder that we don't always have to trade, we don't always have to be in a position, and sometimes it's best to just get a couple of moves and then sit back and wait for something better to form, you know? And to recognize when we aren't going anywhere. I'd say after about noon, it was pretty clear we aren't going anywhere. We aren't going to break these squeezes. We've got good support, and they're not letting it get above VWAP. Clearest indicator all day. So, going into today. Overnight we held VWAP, or I'm sorry, overnight we held the daily 8 pretty decent. Had a little dip, but set a higher low from yesterday's low. And still off of those squeeze clouds. And from the bottom of that, I'm assuming 30-minute. Yep, 30-minute tight squeeze straight up to the top. We are already pushing back above 41.36.5. So we're looking pretty strong, at least heading into this CPI data. Anything can happen. Obviously, we are hoping with the CPI data that it shows that inflation may have already started to peak. June was in line with expectations, but an increase in CPI. So hopefully we will find that the numbers that come out for CPI this month are going to show a little a lower number than what we got last month, right? So a slight reduction in CPI, showing that prices are coming down, inflation might be coming down, and maybe the Fed won't raise the 0.75 at the next meeting. So, we'll have to see what we get in about 20 minutes. The fact that we're pushing into these squeeze tops. Let's just jump back out to a higher time frame. Sorry about that. There we go. So we're pushing into these squeeze tops with that CPI data coming out. If it's favorable, if the numbers are going down, we could see that we push straight on out of this up to our key zones and up to squeeze tops up here. We could find if that data is not favorable and the numbers going up, we could see that we drop straight into the bottom of these squeezes, this zone. We could even go straight past it to something like the daily 8 and this key levels below. We'll have to see what the reaction is. We'll get it here soon. Ultimately, we are in a number of stacked squeezes. This 4-hour spans up to this week's highs, to our key zone up here at this 41.83, 41.90. And the bottom of that squeeze at our 4100. I'd say only if the numbers are rising and obviously not favorable will we break down out of this, and it could happen before we open. And in that case, we'll want to be watching that daily 21 is now at 40.50, that daily 15 at 40.80. We've got key levels all down below if we are going to sell off. And, we got our key levels to the upside if we're going to move higher off of the data. In Q, a bit of the same. It says it has a 4-hour squeeze intact. Although it's not that visible, so it's probably going to be in about the same areas as, this 13,000. And the top of that up at the highs of this week. I did talk about and drew this zone yesterday on NQ. Yeah, it was basically saying if we can bounce at the highs from last week, we could get a nice move up into CPI. We quickly dropped under that zone. We quickly dropped under that zone, and as you can see, every time we got to it, we also had VWAP there, we rejected. So sometimes it's good to mark things like that for your thesis, right? As we were coming down pre-market, I said if we could hold last week's highs, we could get a decent bounce. We tore directly through them, so what should be support is now going to be resistance, so every long should be locked when we get to that. You can always re-enter if it gets through and comes back for support, right? We're starting to get above that pre-market. And, you know, just like ES, we have our key moving averages and key levels below. Should we start to break down on this data? And should we start to pop? You know, the first stop is kind of this 13,250 on our way to a 13,500 way up here. And we got to get through our key levels up at the top of this 4-hour squeeze. Ruddy was a good indicator yesterday. It fell hard fast and didn't really bounce. As we saw on the other indices, ES and NQ, we got drops and then bounces back to VWAP. I mean, you can see the Ruddy just kept going. So it's a good indicator that we're weak. We're not going to bounce necessarily. Like, you know, we were hoping at least if we hit that daily 8, we get a bounce back. All we did was settle. This was a good indicator that, you know, we're not going to get a decent bounce today because this can't get to VWAP. It keeps heading lower. Just one reason why I kind of watched the Ruddy. So, same daily bob on the Ruddy today at the top of our 30-minute squeeze. See how the data goes. If it's favorable and we get going to the upside, 1936 is where this second Keltner is. Then 1950. With the ultimate goal of that third Keltner in 1975. If we start to break down, 1900 will be the first test. If we can hold it, that is at least showing pretty bullish. If we start to lose it, we've got the daily 15, daily 21 down below. YM. Definitely getting tighter and tighter in these squeezes. But already pushing nicely and kind of recovering yesterday. So a little strength here. And not far from our key level at 32,900. If data can look favorable. And, you know, ultimate goal right now is at 33,100. That we almost got to. And if we can push a further, you know, that third Keltner is kind of up near 33,500. We aren't probably going to get there today. Got to see how the data goes. We've got our daily 21 down at that 32,250. And I'm assuming, yeah, the daily 50, not far below that psych level of 32,000. Let's see what we get in this data. Apple. Apple had a little relative strength yesterday. I mean, it did kind of go up and then stay in a range, fighting back to that 165. Let's see if it can hold that 165 during the cash session and continue to push up to this 4-hour squeeze top, spanning 167, 168. And we do have that third Keltner. That's going to be, 168.75-ish. If the market starts to roll. Basically expecting Apple to drop to test the daily 8 and the squeeze bottom. If that gives out, then likely down to this 160, where the daily 100 and daily 15 are now crossing over each other. So that'll be your big key magnet to the downside if things start to give out. AMD. Chips were definitely a good play to the downside yesterday. And I believe, the thesis I covered was if we can hold this zone, we can try to push back over 100. We immediately gave out that zone. And I said we could dip down to 96 and maybe this daily 15. That's what we got. Going into the day, that 96 could be resistance. Could have us retest the daily 15, which will be stepping up near the squeeze bottom. And if we can get through that 96 resistance, then it's back to our zone above in a bid to get back to 100. I believe that chip bill was signed into law yesterday. So, could be just some profit taking to reload and go back up. But if, market rolls over, we do have the daily 21, which will be stepping to this 93 key zone below. It's a target to the downside. Amazon. I'd say should market look weak and we start to drop, probably going straight to the 21 in the middle of this gap fill. And if things do go to the downside, it could potentially try to go and complete this gap. Not saying it's going to drop 16 points today, just saying it could send it in a direction to maybe end the week there. But if data is favorable and if we can at least hold the daily 8 that we tested yesterday, we can get moving back above that 140 in a bid to get to this daily 200 at 145. Oh man, maybe on Apple that was the daily 200 as well. My apologies. Yeah, daily 215 are crossing over. Sorry about that. So on Amazon, yep, if we can get going to the upside, daily 200, big key target 145, and maybe on the way to that psych 150. BA, tighter, tighter, tighter. If a market rolls and we give out this zone, which now our squeeze is completely span, back to the daily 21 is a likely scenario around that 150, I just call it 158, 159-ish. If we data is favorable and we hold zone, the goal is to push back to that 168, 170. And start the journey up to 175, that third Keltner. Cat had some decent strength and then kind of gave it out, but held that daily 8. Definitely trying to settle and hold above 185, as long as it can keep holding. It's a bit to get back to that 189.5, that daily 50, that 193 above, but down on earnings could just kind of chill. But holding those moving averages back above all of them. So we'll see if we do start to roll over back through this low at 181. to that first Keltner down. Google. Google definitely getting very tight, holding this daily 8. We saw good reaction to TTD earnings, which could have a good impact on Google in that ad space, right? If if you're looking to play this, we've seen all too often they get a good reaction, they fade it back for a day, maybe even 2. We do have that daily 200 above on TTD, but anyway, back to Google. Looking decently strong this morning with a small gap up. It does have a ton of squeezes that have gotten tight. So if things are favorable, we go to the upside. First target that 118 up in these squeezes. If we can get through, 119, 120, top of this daily squeeze. It's saying that daily squeeze fired, but we're not below it, so it's just a thin one. Either way, if we start to break down, first stop that 116, and then that daily 21 will be stepping up pretty close to 115. GS. Kind of a little bit of relative strength yesterday, already popping out of this wedge. If we're going to the upside, 338 and then 340 on a journey to get to that 345. If we start to roll over, daily 8 at 332, then 229 for the 15, daily 21 at 324-ish. This is why I hate JPM. It just does nothing, then has a great day, and then does nothing. Holding above its daily moving averages in a very big daily squeeze. Not a ton of interest here for me. If it can get going above 116, 117, 118. If it loses all these moving averages, if data is unfavorable, it could go fast just right back down to 112, 110. Meta. Also could get a little push from that good earnings on TTD, that ad space. And some tight squeezes. Let's see if it can clear that daily 50, 170 in a bid to get to 175. And if we can start to break out that 180 top of daily squeeze. If market rolls over and we lose moving averages, first stop this 165 in the middle of the squeeze, and if that gives out, 160 where that first Keltner is. Microsoft, probably the strongest name yesterday. Well, market did not very much. Microsoft just dipped down to 278 in the squeeze clouds. And then pushed itself back up to 283. Those 280s were a great trade all day. You hit them once and they got in the money, then gave a pullback just a teensy below 280, and then you can load again. I believe a few folks hit those out. We called them out a few times. Relatively strong already, gapping up almost to this week's highs. So Microsoft, a decent candidate if everything's looking good for data that we're about to receive. If it can get going to the upside, we obviously have this 285, all this squeeze top to deal with. If we get through that, 290, 292. If we roll over and we start to lose 280 and this daily 8, the squeeze as well. Daily 21 and everything down at, you know, stepping up to probably 273, 274. Netflix has that crazy day, gives it all back yesterday, but held the daily 8. If everything's favorable, we stay above 230. It's a bid to get back 235, 238, on our way to 245. Daily 21 down at like 216, 218. If we start to give out the daily 8 and daily 15. And NVIDIA reported earnings early. Let's just let it settle at this daily 50. You know, AMD is a better candidate, frankly, if we're going to play chips to the upside. Overall, if we get going to, well, nice pop there. Oh, I think the data just came out, and we got a decent reaction so far. So, you know, NVIDIA to the upside, it's all about getting back to 180, back above the daily 21, which we're about to take off through. I don't know. You could say that, you know, if we can get going, hold all these moving averages, it could do an engulf play back up. That seems dramatic for something that had this reaction and showed, you know, not favorable numbers on earnings or guidance. Let's take a quick look over at ES. Oh my goodness. So, like I said, that data could come out and be favorable, and we just shoot right up to this week's highs. So, there we go on that. Let me take a quick look at our stock news channel. Where are you? Over here. See if we have the numbers dropped. Oh, let's see. Yep, it stayed under 9% from the year earlier. And prices unchanged in consumer. Here, I'm sorry, let me pull this over. Why read it when I could just show it? So, whoa, it's dropping fast. And we are ripping fast. Ugh. Damn it, should have had those 4200s. We talked about it. We talked about it yesterday. They were cheap, the 4200s into today. Should have picked them up. But yeah, overall, obviously, numbers are looking good. We're not seeing any kind of crazy increase. So everything's priced in, and so we're ripping. Of course, we're going to make so much of the move before the bell even rings. You know, overall, if we are going to just carry and rip and do more than an ATR because we are basically already there, the goal is this zone up above in that third Keltner. And I'm sure that everything I covered on most names has now changed. Yep. Back to this zone on AMD. We could see a slight dip, but I'd be watching those 100s. All these squeezes are firing. Look at that. 168. Ultimate goal on Apple if we just keep ripping this 171, 172. I'm just going to kind of jump around, folks, to get a feel for what they're rotating into. Mostly all tech. BA looking strong. Amazon back over 140. Gold at 145. My, oh my, congrats to those that swung the calls. Everything just ripping to high of week. I don't give a crap about JPM. Yeah, Meta 180s, watch those. I think they like the data, folks. I think they like the data. Oh, Microsoft. You know, this is why, like, sometimes we talk about that, you know, some of us hit those 280s yesterday on a Tuesday, getting great entries near Beast Burgers, all that. And we still have days left. So those 280s now very far in the money. Sometimes it's good to let things play out to their expiration, especially if we get them off Beast early in the week. Let's get back to Qs. Oh, damn it, I hit those 325s yesterday for today's expiration at like 50 cents. Should have left some of them. We're going to have fun today. Right at the top of our 4-hour squeeze, this week's high. Let's see if we get a little dip, maybe to 322 to this consolidation. But yeah, 328, 330. Let's see if we get there. Roku. Roku, Netflix could be a decent catch-up trade. Since they're not already at this week's highs. Netflix getting close. Let's just skip down to SPX. Held all of our gaps. We have no gaps above. We're going to be opening right up in these levels and squeeze tops. If we are going to keep pushing, 42.18, 42.34 is the zone above where that third Keltner sits as the upside target. Maybe we get our dip to like 41.60, which lines up with some highs and consolidation from Thursday. Before heading higher, we'll have to see. SPY. 418 printing already. Let's see. And if we clear 420 and just keep carrying, next goal is that 422.5 range. I'm sorry, basically those are shadowed around 423. Tesla. So I'm not sure if you guys saw some of the things posted. Oh, nice D4. She swung some of those Amazon call-outs from yesterday and some Microsoft for next week. My man, you're going to be happy come open. Definitely take a little profit. You still have a few days left, so maybe leave a little runner. Tesla, I don't know if you guys saw, but Elon was selling the last few days. And from what he said on Twitter, he's done selling. So Tesla could be a great catch-up trade. Definitely be watching, you know, everything from 900 up to about 960. It's early in the week, maybe even those 1000s. But we do have that split coming. You know, he just liquidated, says he's done. We hit daily moving averages, pushing off of them. Everything's looking favorable in the market. You know, we could see rotation since everything just ripped up to highs. We could see some names take a dip and Tesla start a good rip. But good candidate today for a catch-up trade. VIX. Oh man, this is stupid. We get this rip and VIX just sits. Anyway, if we're going to see continuation on this rip, VIX has to get below 22, start to take off and give out 21.5, and a bid to get down to the bottom of the squeeze if we're going to see continuation during the cash session on this rip. But if we're going to see the rip stall out at highs and at squeeze tops and come back to start filling the gap, we're probably going to see VIX hold 22, come up to 22.5, these squeeze tops. I don't like that it's just sitting right here. Could provide a little bit to going back to fill the gap. But if we can stay below 22.5, give out 22, everything's looking good to the upside on VIX. There's that reaction. It's like it didn't even make sense to stay up there. Nah, we're talking. So if we're going to get some good continuation today, VIX needs to give out squeeze bottoms 20.5, get below 20, and keep trucking below this daily squeeze, daily Keltner, right? If we see VIX start to hold 20.5, start to push to 21, we're going to see a little bit of gap fill and a nice pullback. On a rip like this, expect a little bit of profit taking and a chance to reload. But yeah, let's be ready, folks. Congrats to those that swung calls. Oh, we almost tapped 4,200 already. And you know, if you aren't holding any calls, we should just continue to recognize the trend that we're in. The fact that we're holding key things like the daily 8, don't even need to get a full reversion going into this data, so they probably expected it to be decent. And they just held it here yesterday, loading the calls for today. Go back and look at some of those calls with their beasts. I'm sure you'll see some defense of those beast zones yesterday. But one last thing I'll point out as well in that whole point is you can see with our 4-hour moving averages, the 8, the 21, and the 45 that I like to use. And all of that pullback Monday and today, and even that Friday pre-market, we stayed above the 45. And yesterday we held that 45 like a dog. So it's a good reason to at least allocate risk to. They are keeping it up here to maintain the trend going into that data release, right? We got over 4,200. Oh man, we're gonna have a fun day today, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Good luck today trading, and we will see you in the chat room.